Hi, welcome to chapter 1. This week we're reading chapter 1 in the she shed, and I have up my fall tree, but soon it'll turn to Christmas. But welcome to chapter 1. This week's chapter 1 is Holly Homicide, the holiday cozy mystery series. Chapter 1. Jingle, jingle, jingle. The soft rhythmic sounds of jingle bells caught my ear, a sweet, familiar tune that blended seamlessly with the merry chatter drifting up from the streets below. The merriment outside my apartment window fluttered in through the slightly cracked pane, brushing past the chilly breeze that kissed my cheeks. I was fully immersed in a meeting for a deadline for the Junction Journal. The pressure was causing me to sweat, a feeling I despised. Sweating was for summer, and I preferred the crisp, clean cold of winter. The hint of fresh wintry air tickled my skin, refreshing my mind and providing a small escape from the flickering cursor on my screen. Outside, the holiday cheer seemed to pour from every corner of Holiday Junction, bringing with it the sound of children laughing, the occasional hum of a Christmas tune. Snowflakes flurried through the gap of the window, landing softly on my desk like little winter messengers, reminding me of the season's magic. That's a wrap, I said to myself after typing the final keystrokes. The town's event schedule for tomorrow was ready. I sighed in relief after sending it. The persistent jingle caught my attention once more. Jingle, jingle, jingle. The bells sounded closer, the chimes mingling with rising oohs and ahs. I glanced up from my laptop, a smile curled on my lips. The entire town was buzzing for weeks, counting down to the grand opening of our month-long Christmas market. The festival, which would culminate in glorious mistletoe masquerade ball at the Ellison Evergreens, turned the normally quiet streets in town into a glowing holiday hub. I closed my laptop, leaving it on the desk, and I walked over to the window. And as I lifted it up, a blast of chilly air whooshed in, carrying with it the smell of pine and cinnamon, making my heart swell with Christmas joy. Below me, the magic of the season was in full swing. A horse-drawn carriage draped in garland of holly and twinkling fairy lights was making its way down the main street of the art district, its grand entrance casting a spell on everyone in its path. The two majestic black stallions pranced ahead of the sleigh body through the snow, their glossy coats glistening under the glow of the lanterns mounted on either side. The coachman, a dapper figure, sat tall and proud, his white gloved hands gripping the reins, his top hat flawlessly polished, gleamed each time he passed beneath one of the ornate carriage lights that lined the sidewalks. Jingle, jingle, jingle. The collar around the horse's thick necks displayed large brass bells, and as the regal animals took each step, clear melodic rings resounded through the streets like music from an old holiday movie. Pedestrians were bundled up in thick winter coats, colorful scarves, and knitted hats paused mid-step, enchanted by the scene. A little girl dressed in a bright red coat with matching mittens clutched her mother's hands. Her eyes were wide, reflecting the magic of the sleigh as she pointed excitedly to the horses. Gleeful voices filled the air as all the other children I noticed tugged on their parents' coats, eager to follow the sleigh to its destination, probably to the Christmas market. The first snow of the evening drifted down lazily, gentle flakes blanketing the cobblestone streets in a soft layer of white. It was just enough to crunch underfoot, the kind of snow that made the world feel quiet and calm, as though time itself had slowed for a special moment. The women in the crowd were visions of holiday elegance. Some were trimmed in fur muffs and woolen capes. Their cheeks were flushed from the cold. Others were sporting vibrant red and green scarves draped over their coats lined with white fleece. The men wore thick gloves and wool hats, and they had them pulled way down over their ears, and their friends were all clustered together, enjoying smells of the roasted chestnuts and the spice cider that lingered in the air that were curling up from the vendors that were set along the sidewalks. As the sleigh neared, the magic of the moment past seemed to spread like the warmth of a crackling fire. The glow of the lanterns bathed the scene in a soft amber hue, casting long shadows across the street. The little shops lining the sidewalks, they seemed to lean in a little bit closer. Their windows were glimmering with Christmas lights and festive displays of wreaths, candy canes, and handmade ornaments. I watched as the coachman tipped his hat to onlookers, his eyes twinkling with mischief as he snapped the reins ever so gently, encouraging the horses to lift their heads and their feet higher. The bells rang louder, announcing the sleigh's grand arrival right in front of my apartment. The crowd gasped softly as the sleigh slowed in front of my apartment. The scene below was pure magic, and a moment felt straight out of the pages of a holiday storybook. Whoa, the coachman called to the horses, bringing them to a complete stop just below my small balcony. The jingling of the bells ceased, and the crowd had gathered to watch it all as their breath was visible in the cold air. I lifted the window fully this time, and the chill sweeping into my cozy apartment made me shiver. Grabbing the soft plaid blanket from my desk chair, I flung it around my shoulders and savored the warmth before I leaned out a little closer. The sleigh stood greenly on the cobblestone streets, and the black stallions exhaled steaming as they pranced in place. I could see the coachman still holding their reins as he looked at me with a smile. Well, curiosity got the better of me, so I climbed out my window onto my small balcony and peeked over the iron railing, looking beyond the empty flower box to see who just might be stepping from the sleigh. And then I saw him. Darren Strickland, my boyfriend, emerged from behind the driver, his mussed up brown hair catching the glow of the lanterns, his dark eyes locked on mine, and with a huge grin spread across his face, he waved up at me enthusiastically. I pointed to myself, my eyes widening, unsure if he really meant me, and he chuckled, shaking his head, and nodded vigorously. Yeah, you, he called up, his thick brows lifting in amusement as he gestured for me to come down. He gave me another playful wave. The joy and the mischief in his expression was undeniable. I couldn't help but laugh, my heart light and fluttering, and pedestrians, some still in the midst of their holiday shopping, paused to take in this very romantic scene. I saw a few people whisper one to another, speculating what was happening, and while others smiled, their cheeks rosy from the cold as they held cups of steaming cocoa or tucked gloved hands into the arms of their companions. I waved back and said, "Give me a minute," I called before hurrying back through the window into the warmth of my apartment. My heart raced as I headed straight for my bedroom, but just about to reach the doorknob, I realized I'd left the window open. I spun back around and retraced my steps, rushing to close it before the heat escaped into the night. And before I tugged it down, I glanced out one more time to make sure I was not imagining this whole thing. And sure enough, there was Darren, standing beside the sleigh, now leaning casually against the side of the ever-present grin of his face, and as though he had all the time in the world. He waved again, this time a little slower, and a wink. My heart officially melted. I quickly closed the window and scurried back to my bedroom where I pulled on my thick woolen socks and my snow boots. The boots weren't glamorous, but they'd keep my feet warm in the snow, and I hurried and slipped on a cream-colored sweater and threw on my long coat before grabbing a knitted scarf and gloves from the hallway closest to out to the door. The click of the door behind me echoed through the stairwell as I bounded down the steps, my boots tapping quickly against the wooden plank. I was breathing fast with excitement, and by the time I reached the bottom, the cold air hit me like a brisk kiss from the winter itself. Darren was still waiting for me beside the sled, his tall figure framed by the soft light of the street lamp that made the snow around him shimmer. His dark eyes twinkled as he opened his arms wide, welcoming me. "Surprise," he said. His voice was warm and teasing as he helped me up into the sleigh. His hands, strong and sure, guided me as I stepped into the wooden side and settled into the plush velvet seat. Once I was in place, he pulled a thick, heavy blanket around my shoulders, tucking in the corners snugly around me. The material was softer than I expected, and the warmth immediately spread through me, cutting through the chill in the air. "I wanted to make sure you experienced the reopening of the Christmas lodge," Darren said, leaning in close as he spoke. His breath misting between us, his voice was filled with affection, like he'd been planning this for a while. "It's been closed for a few years, and I know how much you wanted to see it, and I thought it would be a perfect way to kick off the season." My heart swelled at his words, and I couldn't help but grin at the thought of what lay ahead. Everyone said the Christmas Lodge, a beloved part of Holiday Junction's history, had been a magical place before it closed down years ago, and now apparently was finally reopening. I can't believe it, I said, wrapping my arms around his neck. You've really outdone yourself. Anything for you, he laughed, his eyes crinkled at the corners. The sleigh jolted gently as the horses shifted gears to be off. Darren took my gloved hand in his and gave it a soft squeeze as the coachman snapped the reins, and with the gentle jingle of the bells, we were off, gliding down the snow-covered street of the art district toward the Christmas Lodge. The world around us felt like a snow globe, with snowflakes swirling in as we made our way through the festively decorated street. This whole month-long festival was going to be incredible. Chapter 1, Holiday Homicide.